trust in Allah's plan is one of the most powerful sources of peace a believer can ever experience. When you begin to understand that everything happening around you, every joy, every setback, every unexpected twist, is carefully written by Allah, your heart starts to relax. You stop trying to control what was never yours to control. You begin to live with a sense of calm, knowing that the one who created you has already designed your path with wisdom far beyond your understanding. What you see as a delay, Allah sees as perfect timing. What you see as a loss, Allah may see as protection. And what you see as the end, Allah may be using as the beginning of something better. There are moments in life when you pray for something so deeply, yet it doesn't happen. In those moments your heart aches and you question why. But true trust means believing that Allah heard you the first time and chose a different answer out of His mercy. Sometimes what we want would harm us more than it would help us, and Allah in His love blocks it from reaching us. This is not rejection, it is redirection. When you trust Allah's plan, you stop fighting against His wisdom. You begin to say, Alhamdulillah, not only when things go right, but even when they go wrong, because you know that every situation carries hidden goodness. Many times the human mind is limited to the now. We can only see what's in front of us, but Allah sees the whole story. He knows what's behind every closed door, every delay, every disappointment. He knows what you need before you even ask. So when something doesn't go your way, it's not because your dua was ignored. It's because Allah is guiding you to something better. The one who trusts Allah learns to be patient, to wait with peace instead of frustration, because they know that Allah's timing is always precise. Think about the moments when you were certain something was best for you, but later you discovered how wrong you were. That job you didn't get, that relationship that ended, that opportunity that slipped away at the time, you were hurt. But later you saw how it protected you or led you to something far greater. That's Allah's plan unfolding quietly. Sometimes He saves you from what you think you want, just to give you what you truly need. That's why trusting Him completely is the key to true contentment. When you live with trust, you stop asking why me, and start saying, Ya Allah, guide me. You stop seeing challenges as punishments and start viewing them as lessons. Every trial becomes a message, every delay a form of preparation. Allah doesn't waste your pain. Every tear, every sleepless night, every hardship is shaping you into the person He knows you can become. The believer who trusts in Allah doesn't crumble under pressure. They rise with purpose, knowing that behind every hardship lies His divine mercy. It's easy to have faith when everything is going well, but true trust is proven in hardship. It's when you can't see the way forward, yet you still believe Allah is leading you somewhere good. It's when your heart breaks, but you whisper, I know you have a plan. That kind of trust is not weakness, it's strength. It's surrender. It's the recognition that no matter how hard you try, control belongs to Allah alone. When you reach that level of faith, life becomes lighter, not because the problems disappear, but because your perspective changes. The storms of life will come, but when your heart is anchored in trust, you won't be shaken. You'll still feel pain, but you won't feel hopeless. You'll still face challenges, but you'll face them with calm, because deep down you'll know that Allah is with you, guiding you through every step. When you trust Him, you stop comparing your journey to others. You realize that every person has a unique story written by Allah, and what's meant for you will never miss you. True trust means letting go of the if only thoughts that haunt your mind. You stop saying, if only I had done this, or if only this had happened. Those words belong to regret, not faith. The believer knows that whatever has passed was meant to pass, and whatever is written will reach them no matter what stands in the way. When you live by that belief, your heart finds freedom from the chains of worry. You no longer chase after what's gone. You focus on what's ahead, trusting Allah to guide your steps. Trust also means taking action with faith, not sitting idle. It's not about waiting for miracles without effort. You do your best, you make dua, you plan, but you leave the outcome in Allah's hands. You understand that success doesn't come from effort alone, but from His permission. And if He withholds something, it's out of protection, not deprivation. This balance between striving and surrendering is the essence of peace in a believer's life. In every moment, remind yourself that Allah has never made a mistake in your story. Everything you've faced was written with precision, even the pain that broke you. Every season of difficulty carries a hidden mercy, every heartbreak carries a lesson, and every silence from Allah is not absence, it's preparation. When you live with this trust, your heart no longer fears the unknown. You begin to see every chapter of your life as part of His divine plan, and that realization fills your soul with the calm that only comes from knowing that Allah is always in control. Worry is one of the most exhausting emotions a person can carry. It drains your energy, clouds your mind, and takes away the peace that Allah wants you to experience. Many of us fall into the habit of replaying our problems over and over, imagining worst-case scenarios that never even happen. We convince ourselves that by worrying, we are somehow preparing or protecting ourselves, but in truth, worry doesn't fix anything, it only weakens our spirit. The reality is that no matter how much you think, analyze, or stress, the result will always be what Allah has already written. When you begin to internalize that truth, your heart starts to rest. Worry grows in the absence of faith. When your heart forgets who is in control, your mind begins to panic. You start believing that outcomes depend on you alone, your strength, your effort, your plan. But life was never designed that way. Allah is the one who brings success, ease, and relief. You can worry endlessly, but if Allah has decreed ease for you, it will reach you effortlessly. And if something was never meant for you, no amount of sleepless nights will make it yours. That understanding is not meant to make you give up, it's meant to free you. Because once you stop trying to control the uncontrollable, your heart finds the peace it has been searching for. Every moment you spend worrying is a moment you could spend in prayer. Every thought spent imagining how things could go wrong is a thought that could be used to remember Allah. The more you feed worry, the stronger it becomes, until it begins to control your emotions and your outlook on life. But when you shift that focus and start saying, Allah will take care of it, the fear starts to lose its grip on you. It's not that the problem disappears, but your heart learns to stay calm even in chaos. That calmness is a gift from Allah to those who trust Him. We often believe that worrying means we care, but true care comes from faith, not fear. Worrying about your future, your family, or your livelihood doesn't make you more responsible, it only makes you more restless. Responsibility is doing what you can and leaving what you can't to Allah. Once you've made your effort, your part is done. The rest is in His hands, so when your mind keeps repeating the same anxious thoughts, remind yourself, I've done what I can, the rest belongs to my Lord. That one reminder can silence an ocean of worry. Sometimes Allah allows worry to enter our hearts not to weaken us, but to remind us of how much we need Him. When life feels uncertain, that's when we turn to Him most sincerely. The anxiety that troubles you might be the very thing pulling you back to prayer, back to remembrance, back to the realization that without Him you have no control. And when you finally place your trust in Allah, the same situation that once terrified you begins to feel manageable. You realize that peace was never about fixing every problem. It was about surrendering them to the one who can. Worrying also clouds your gratitude. It makes you blind to what's already going right because you're too focused on what might go wrong. You may have countless blessings, health, shelter, family, sustenance. Yet a single worry can make you forget all of them. When your heart is constantly anxious, you can't enjoy what Allah has already given you. But the moment you stop worrying and start appreciating, life feels lighter. Gratitude opens your eyes to the mercy of Allah in the middle of your struggles. Every person faces situations that seem impossible to handle. There are moments when the uncertainty feels unbearable, but if you look back on your life, you'll realize that you've already survived days you thought you never would. You've faced storms before, and somehow Allah brought you through. So when new worries come, remind yourself of His past favors. If Allah carried you through yesterday, what makes you think He'll abandon you today? He is still the same merciful, still the same provider, still the same protector. Worry convinces you that you're alone, but you never are. Allah is closer to you than your own heartbeat. Every anxious thought, every tear, every sigh, He knows it all. You don't even need to find the perfect words. A simple, Ya Allah, help me, reaches the heavens. When you replace endless worrying with sincere dua, you transform your anxiety into worship. You turn weakness into a form of strength because you are no longer carrying it alone. The more you worry, the heavier life feels, but the more you trust, the lighter your burdens become. Allah never asked you to handle everything. He only asked you to rely on Him. That is why worry accomplishes nothing. It's effort spent in the wrong direction. Instead of worrying about the outcome, focus on your connection with Allah. When your heart is close to Him, no amount of uncertainty can shake you. You learn to face life with calmness, knowing that whatever comes your way is already under His control. Worrying may be part of human nature, but letting it rule your heart is a choice. Every time your thoughts begin to spiral, you have the power to pause and remind yourself, Allah is enough for me. That phrase alone carries more healing than hours of overthinking. Because once you hand your fears to the one who controls the universe, you no longer need to figure everything out. You simply walk forward, trusting that Allah's plan is already perfect, and that your worry was never meant to fix what only faith can. Allah is always in control, even when everything around you seems to be falling apart. It's easy to believe in His power when life is going smoothly, but the true test of faith is remembering His control in the moments when nothing makes sense. When doors close unexpectedly, when people walk away, or when your plans crumble before your eyes, it's not chaos, it's divine precision. Nothing happens randomly. Every single event in your life, whether it feels joyful or painful, unfolds exactly as Allah has decreed. Understanding that brings an unshakable peace to the heart, because you realize that there is no such thing as coincidence, only Allah's perfect arrangement. There are times when you feel completely powerless, when every effort you make seems to fall short. You plan carefully, you try sincerely, yet things still don't turn out the way you hoped. That's when you must remind yourself that control never belonged to you in the first place. You can work hard, but you cannot dictate the results. You can plan, but you cannot force outcomes. Allah is the one who makes things happen, and sometimes His plan is to withhold what you want because He knows it would harm you. When you surrender to that reality, your frustration begins to fade, replaced by trust in the one who sees the full picture when you can only see a small part. Control is something humans constantly chase, but can never truly have. You can't control people, situations, or time itself. The only thing you truly have control over is your response to what Allah decrees. Once you accept that, you stop fighting against life. You stop asking why me and start saying, Ya Allah, guide me. That shift in mindset transforms your heart. You no longer see hardships as punishments, but as moments where Allah is calling you closer. When you realize that He is managing every detail, even your struggles start to make sense because they are part of a bigger plan designed just for you. There are moments when it feels like Allah is silent, when your duas seem unanswered and your heart feels unheard. But silence doesn't mean absence. Sometimes Allah is working behind the scenes, aligning everything perfectly for the right time. You may not see it, but every delay, every closed door, every disappointment is a sign that He is in full control. He knows the right moment for everything to fall into place, and He will never rush it or delay it beyond what's best for you. That understanding changes the way you wait. You stop waiting in anxiety and start waiting with faith. When you truly believe that Allah is in control, you stop living in fear of the future. You no longer panic about what tomorrow will bring, because you know that tomorrow is already written by the one who loves you most. Fear is replaced by peace when you remember that no harm can touch you unless Allah allows it, and no blessing can miss you if He has written it for you. This doesn't mean life becomes easy, but it means your heart becomes strong enough to handle whatever life brings. Faith gives you the strength to walk through uncertainty with calmness because you trust the one guiding you. Many people spend their lives trying to control everything: their relationships, their careers, their image, their future, only to end up exhausted. That exhaustion comes from trying to play a role that belongs to Allah alone. Once you release that need to control and let Allah take charge, you begin to experience freedom. It's not giving up, it's giving in to divine wisdom. You do your best, but you no longer feel the crushing pressure of having to make everything perfect. You realize that perfection already exists in Allah's plan, not yours. Sometimes Allah will let your plans fall apart so you can witness His power in building something better. You might think that everything is slipping away, but in reality, it's being rearranged for your benefit. What seems like chaos to you is precision to Him. He knows what you don't, sees what you can't, and understands what you never could. So when life takes a turn you didn't expect, remember that control is still in His hands and His decisions are always for your good, even if you can't understand them in the moment. Believing that Allah is in control also means accepting that life won't always go your way, and that's okay. Sometimes you will struggle, sometimes you will lose, sometimes you will cry. But even in those moments, Allah's control never slips for a single second. He allows pain to teach you patience, loss to remind you of gratitude, and failure to strengthen your faith. Every experience, good or bad, is a tool that Allah uses to purify your heart and prepare you for what's next. Once you begin to see trials through that lens, you stop resisting them and start growing from them. The beauty of knowing that Allah is in control is that you can rest even when you don't have answers. You can breathe deeply and remind yourself that no matter how confusing life becomes, there's someone managing it with perfect wisdom. The same Lord who split the sea for Musa, who saved Yunus from the belly of the whale, who brought Yusuf from prison to power, that same Lord is managing your life right now. Nothing is beyond His ability, and nothing happens without His permission. That realization brings a serenity that no human power could ever provide. Even when life feels completely out of your hands, it is never out of His. Every breath you take, every beat of your heart, every turn in your journey is under His command. And when you live with that awareness, you begin to see life differently. You stop being crushed by uncertainty and start walking with quiet confidence. You learn that what's written will reach you, what's not meant will pass you, and in all of it, Allah remains the ultimate controller, never mistaken, never late, and never unjust. Faith over fear is the foundation of true peace. When fear tries to take over your heart, faith is what reminds you that Allah is greater than any problem you face. Fear whispers that you are alone, that things will never get better, that you are not strong enough to endure. But faith silences that voice and says, Allah is with me. It gives you strength when you feel weak and light when everything feels dark. Fear tells you to give up, while faith tells you to hold on. And the moment you choose faith over fear, something shifts inside you. A calmness begins to settle where panic once lived, because your heart knows that Allah is in control. There are moments in life when fear feels overwhelming, when you don't see a way forward and the unknown frightens you. It's in those moments that faith becomes your shelter. Faith doesn't erase fear instantly, but it teaches you to keep walking despite it. It reminds you that Allah has never failed you before, and He won't start now. Every time your heart starts racing with anxiety, pause and whisper to yourself, Allah is enough for me. That single sentence carries the power to stop fear in its tracks, because it reconnects you to the one who controls everything. Fear grows strongest when you focus on what could go wrong instead of who is in charge. It feeds on uncertainty, magnifying your doubts until they consume your peace. But faith redirects your focus. It teaches you to look at the same situation with a different lens, not through panic, but through trust. You begin to see that every difficulty carries purpose, every delay holds wisdom, and every closed door protects you. Faith doesn't remove the problem, but it changes how you see it. You stop asking, "Why is this happening?" and start saying, "Allah knows best." That shift alone can turn fear into contentment. When you live with faith, you understand that fear is a test, not a punishment. Allah allows you to face situations that stretch your heart, not to break you, but to build you. Sometimes the fear you feel is there to bring you back to prayer, to remind you that you need Him more than you need control. Fear humbles you, faith lifts you. Together, they create balance, a heart that relies on Allah in every situation, whether easy or hard. Each time you choose faith in the middle of fear, you grow stronger, more resilient, and more grounded in trust. Faith over fear means surrendering outcomes to Allah. You still take action, you still plan and strive, but you stop obsessing over how things will unfold. You stop letting what-ifs rule your mind and start saying, "Inshallah." Those words are not just a phrase, they're a declaration of trust. They mean that you acknowledge your limits and affirm Allah's power. They free you from the weight of trying to control what you cannot. And when that trust fills your heart, fear begins to fade naturally, replaced by quiet assurance that whatever happens, it will be exactly as Allah wills. It's easy to have faith when life feels comfortable, but real faith is proven when fear is present. When you're standing at the edge of uncertainty and still choose to believe that Allah will make a way, that's when your iman truly shines. It's in those moments of fear that you have the opportunity to deepen your relationship with Allah. You begin to talk to Him more, rely on Him more, and find comfort in knowing that even when no one understands your struggle, He does. Faith becomes your refuge when fear tries to invade your heart, and that connection with Allah becomes your shield against despair. Sometimes fear comes from losing things you love, people, opportunities, stability. You fear what might happen if things change or fall apart. But faith reminds you that nothing you lose was ever meant to stay, and nothing meant for you can ever be taken away. Allah's plans are always better than your expectations, even when you can't see it in the moment. When you accept that truth, fear no longer has power over you. You learn to live with open hands, ready to let go of what must leave and receive what Allah has prepared for you. When fear enters your heart, it often disguises itself as logic. It convinces you that you're being realistic, that things are too risky, that hope is foolish. But faith defies that voice. Faith says, even when I can't see it, Allah can. It's not blind optimism, it's spiritual certainty. It's the quiet confidence that Allah's promise is true. Indeed, with hardship comes ease. That verse isn't just words, it's a lifeline for every believer who has ever felt trapped in fear. Each time you repeat it, your heart becomes a little stronger, your mind a little calmer, and your soul a little closer to peace. Living with faith doesn't mean you'll never feel afraid again, but it means fear will never control you. You might still worry, still doubt for a moment, still cry out of uncertainty, but deep down, your faith will always remind you of Allah's mercy. It will remind you that even when everything seems to be slipping through your hands, nothing slips through His. Faith gives you the courage to face your fears, not because the fear disappears, but because your trust in Allah becomes greater than your fear of the unknown. Every time fear tries to return, faith tells you to remember Allah's past favors, the times you thought you wouldn't make it but did, the moments you felt lost but found guidance, the situations that seemed impossible but eventually worked out. Those are reminders that Allah has always been in control. If He helped you before, why would He not help you now? Faith collects those memories and builds a fortress in your heart, one strong enough to withstand any storm of fear that comes your way. When pain enters your life, it has a way of shaking everything inside you. It can make you question your strength, your patience, and even your purpose. But pain is not the end. It is often the beginning of transformation. When your heart feels heavy, when tears fall without reason, that's when your soul is closest to its creator. Allah allows pain not to destroy you, but to bring you back to him. Every ache, every heartbreak, every hardship carries a hidden invitation, an invitation to turn your pain into prayer. It's through pain that you begin to understand the depth of your need for Allah and the emptiness of relying solely on the world. There are moments when pain silences you, when words fail and only tears speak. Those are the moments when dua becomes the language of your heart. You don't need perfect words or long supplications. Even a simple Ya Allah, help me, reaches the heavens. When you lift your hands and surrender your pain to him, something powerful happens. Your burden begins to feel lighter, even if nothing around you changes. That's the mercy of Allah. He listens not just to your words, but to the emotions you can't express. Your pain may be silent, but it is never unnoticed by the one who created your heart. Turning pain into prayer is a form of healing. When you cry before Allah, you are not showing weakness. You are showing faith. You are saying, I can't do this alone, and I don't have to, because you are with me. That kind of surrender brings a calm that nothing else can provide. The pain may remain, but your relationship with Allah deepens. You begin to see your struggles differently, not as punishment, but as purification. Each hardship cleanses your heart from attachments that weigh you down and brings you closer to the peace that only faith can offer. Sometimes, Allah uses pain to teach you lessons that comfort never could. You might not understand it now, but one day you'll look back and realize that what broke you was the same thing that built your strength. Every test refines your character, strengthens your patience, and draws out your sincerity. Pain removes pride, humbles the ego, and reminds you that no one can heal you except Allah. When life feels unbearable, remember that the same fire that melts gold also purifies it. Your pain is not a sign of Allah's absence. It is evidence of his care, shaping you into someone better than before. It's easy to run to people when you're hurting, hoping they'll fix what's broken inside you. But no one can understand your pain like Allah can. People can listen, they can comfort, but they cannot heal the wound in your heart. That power belongs only to him. When you learn to take your sadness directly to Allah, you discover a source of peace that no human can give. You start to realize that every time someone couldn't help you, it was Allah reminding you to turn to him instead. True healing begins the moment you stop seeking it from creation and start seeking it from the Creator. Pain also exposes how much you rely on the world. You realize how fragile everything is. Health, relationships, wealth, status, all of it can vanish in an instant. But that realization isn't meant to scare you. It's meant to anchor you in what truly lasts. When the world disappoints you, Allah remains constant. He never leaves, never changes, never turns away a sincere heart. The more you experience pain, the more you begin to detach from what is temporary and cling to what is eternal. That is how pain becomes a teacher, by reminding you that peace lies not in the world, but in Allah. Every time you pray while your heart is breaking, the angels record that moment as an act of worship. Allah loves the dua that comes from a place of pain because it is pure and sincere. When everything feels hopeless and yet you still raise your hands, that is faith in its most beautiful form. Those tears are not wasted. They water the seeds of patience, hope, and resilience inside you. Even when you feel empty, Allah sees the effort in every breath you take just to keep going. Each moment of endurance brings you closer to his mercy. The hardest part of pain is the waiting for relief, for change, for answers. But in that waiting, you learn the art of sabr. Patience is not about remaining silent in suffering. It's about trusting Allah's timing while doing your best. It's about believing that behind every delay there is divine wisdom. Every prayer you make in hardship is heard, every tear is counted, and every test has an appointed end. When you trust that Allah is using this pain for a greater purpose, you find strength to endure what once felt impossible. Pain also reveals the depth of your faith. It strips away the surface level of belief and exposes what lies beneath. It shows you whether your trust in Allah depends on comfort or remains steady in hardship. True faith isn't proven when life is easy. It's proven when your heart is breaking, and yet you still believe that Allah's plan is good. Through pain, your faith matures. It becomes less about expecting ease and more about embracing whatever Allah chooses for you with humility and gratitude. When you turn your pain into prayer, it transforms you from within. It softens your heart, deepens your empathy, and strengthens your connection with Allah. The same heart that once ached begins to find peace in remembrance. You start to realize that the purpose of pain was never to destroy you, but to redirect you, to guide you back to the one who can heal you completely. In every tear and every sigh, there is an opportunity to reconnect with your Creator in ways that comfort never could. Letting go and letting Allah is one of the hardest yet most freeing acts of faith a believer can practice. It means releasing the illusion of control and accepting that your plans, no matter how perfect they seem, are still subject to Allah's will. It means doing your best but knowing that the outcome belongs entirely to Him. So often we cling to things, people, dreams, situations, trying to shape them according to our desires, and in the process we exhaust ourselves. Letting go doesn't mean giving up. It means surrendering to the wisdom of Allah, trusting that what He chooses for you is far better than what you would choose for yourself. The heart naturally wants to hold on, to control, to predict, to understand everything. But Allah teaches us through life that not everything can or should be held on to. Sometimes He asks us to release something not because it was bad, but because it was never meant to stay. The more you resist, the heavier life feels. But the moment you let go and say, Ya Allah, I trust you, you begin to breathe again. It's as if your heart finally stops fighting against the current and starts flowing with the divine rhythm that Allah has already written for you. That is where peace begins, in surrender. When you truly let Allah take over, you start to see that everything happens exactly as it should. The timing you once questioned starts to make sense. The losses that once broke you start to look like protection. The unanswered prayers begin to reveal themselves as redirections. You realize that Allah was never denying you, He was preparing you. He was clearing the path, molding your heart, and positioning you for something greater. Letting go allows you to witness the perfection of His plan, something you could never see while trying to control everything yourself. It's not easy to let go because it means trusting what you cannot see. It means walking into uncertainty with only faith as your guide. But that's where real Iman grows, in the unseen. Every time you release a worry, a fear, or a desire into Allah's hands, you are strengthening your trust in Him. You are saying, I believe that you know what's best for me even when I don't. That trust is what transforms anxiety into peace, chaos into clarity, and despair into hope. It is the bridge between confusion and contentment. Letting go also means accepting that not everything will go your way, and that's not failure, it's divine wisdom. Sometimes Allah withholds something because it's not time yet. Sometimes He removes something because it was holding you back. And sometimes He closes a door because what lies beyond it would harm your heart. When you finally understand that Allah's no is often His way of saying, I have something better, you stop grieving over what you lost and start anticipating what's coming. That's the quiet beauty of surrender. It transforms disappointment into trust. Many people mistake control for strength, but true strength is in letting go. It takes courage to release your grip on what you thought your life should be and to allow Allah to write it His way. You might not understand the story as it unfolds, but one day you'll look back and see that every delay, every rejection, and every detour was leading you exactly where you were meant to be. When you stop fighting Allah's plan, you make space for His blessings to flow effortlessly into your life. Letting Allah take over doesn't mean you stop working hard or making effort. It means you stop attaching your peace to the results. You still strive, you still pray, you still dream, but you leave the outcome in His hands. You remind yourself that success isn't defined by what you get, but by how much trust you have in the process. This mindset changes everything. You no longer measure your worth by what you achieve, but by your willingness to submit to Allah's will with patience and gratitude. Sometimes Allah will strip away what you thought you couldn't live without, just to show you that your strength comes from Him, not from the things you cling to. The job you lost, the relationship that ended, the dream that didn't work out, all of it was written for a purpose. Letting go allows you to stop seeing loss as an end and start seeing it as an opening. When one chapter closes, another begins, and Allah's mercy is written on every page. The pain of letting go is temporary, but the peace that follows is lasting. Letting Allah take over also heals the heart from constant worry. When you no longer try to carry the world on your shoulders, you realize how light life can feel. You stop overthinking every outcome and start saying, whatever happens, happens by the will of Allah. That simple sentence brings immense relief. It removes the burden of trying to control what was never yours to control. It teaches you to breathe again, to trust again, and to live with ease even in the midst of uncertainty. In every season of life, there will come a point where you are faced with the choice to hold on or to let go. Each time, remember that letting go doesn't mean you've lost. It means you've chosen faith over fear. It means you've chosen to believe that Allah's plan is greater than your pain, His timing wiser than your expectations, and His mercy deeper than your understanding. When you finally release everything into His hands, you realize that you were never truly in control, and that realization is the beginning of peace.